as I mise en place for oat flour griddle cakes and blueberry sauce, I want to say a couple notes on the recipe. One is you can use any kind of sauce for the fruit sauce. The recipe comes from one of my favorite Thug Kitchen cookbooks. They've switched, now they're Bad Manners Food. But part of the mise en place that you want to think about as you look at the recipe ingredients for the oat flour griddle cakes, it calls for oat flour, half a cup of oat flour. So that is just taking oats and food processing them, as long as you have a food processor, or you could whiz them in a blender or Ninja. And so when I do that, I add all my other dry ingredients. So everything after, everything from the oat flour down to the coconut oil, right, that you're using to cook them. So the sugar, baking powder, everything, and I just whiz that in the food processor. And then I have my big bowl with my oats already mise en place in there, right? And then the other part of the mise en place you want to think about is that you're going to take your almond or other milk and soak the oats for a few minutes with the ground flaxseed in there. And that, the ground flax is what acts as an egg in this recipe. Could also make this with regular old pancakes if you want. So then when it comes to your blueberry sauce recipe, it says a half pound fresh or frozen blueberries. So a half pound is just under a cup and a half. I actually like to double this. So we use 3 cups of fruit, and then we use maple syrup instead of sugar. So we use about 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Still use the tablespoon of lemon juice and some vanilla extract and lemon zest. And then we add chia seed at the end, is kind of an optional ingredient. So I'll come back with you a couple times during this cooking process. I have all my dry ingredients measured out in my food processor, and I'm gonna soak my oats. And then the other important thing is I'm gonna start the blueberry sauce. I'm gonna use blueberries because I have them, but I'm gonna start that blueberry sauce so that it can be cooking then while I'm making everything else. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, a couple other important things on your blueberry sauce. You might be able to hear mine going here. There's not a lot of liquid in there, right? As the fruit breaks down, the liquid inside the fruit starts to come out. If you've ever made cranberry sauce, you're doing the same thing here, just waiting until kind of the blueberries start to burst. You can push it against the side with your wooden spoon so that they break down. And if you have something like this is an immersion blender. So this you can put in soups or fruit sauces to blend things quickly and easily, but still leave them a little chunky. So you have to make a decision on how chunky or smooth you want your fruit sauce. I use the immersion blender, kind of mix it a little bit. And then I also add some extra chia seeds, which makes this recipe very similar to the chia jam if you would let it thicken longer. But I add these after cooking. So right now I've got everything in there. It's bubbling away, and I have a lid handy just in case it gets too bubbly. Just stir it occasionally. And then whenever you see that it's all the blueberries are kind of broken down, you can take it off the heat, set it aside, and have your pancake pan ready. Again, you can make any pancakes. I'm using my cast iron. I have some coconut oil in it, ready to melt and heat that griddle. Remember, like we talked about quick breads, it's very important to have the right temperature when making pancakes. These pancakes are a little bit more dense, so you don't want to make them too big. I think our book talked about using kind of like a half cup measuring cup to measure out your pancake batter so that your pancakes are not huge and really hard to turn. And that's really important with these. So you don't need to stick around while my blueberry sauce cooks, but keep going. Okay, I'm back. I have my blueberry sauce pretty much cooked. I just have it sitting on the back burner for a moment while I get my griddle cake started. And as we talked about in class for quick breads, you want to make sure that your griddle is the right temperature. You can splash with a little bit of water, and you want a little sizzle, but you don't want a huge kind of fiery response. So you can see that's a pretty nice sizzle. My pancake batter is a nice, more like a drop batter with these pancakes. And I'm gonna use, again, a 1/2 cup measuring cup, just a little bit less than all the way filled. And I'm gonna spread out my pancakes. And if you've made pancakes before, you'll notice these are a lot thicker. So they're oats and oat flour. I suppose if you didn't have a food processor, you could just use a little regular flour in them. That would be fine. So these are a nice whole grain option that could also be gluten-free, pretty allergen friendly. So pancakes, when you cook them, you know that it's time to flip them when you start to see bubbles kind of popping up. These are a little bit different. I do see one bubble popping up here, but and if they stick to the pan, that means typically that they're not ready yet. So, got my pancakes in here. While those are going, I'm just gonna take my blueberry sauce and pour it into a glass bowl to cool for about 10 minutes or so. And then I'll check it out with the immersion blender. But it's so pretty. And really, we love this blueberry sauce and oatmeal. Doesn't even need to be on pancakes. Great with yogurt. So many uses. And again, you can use any fruit. So I'm going to let that settle and get my pancakes here. Might take a little longer to get things going, but just a couple minutes before you're going to flip your pancakes. They are not quite ready to be flipped yet, so I will spare you the wait. Hey, checking in again, just as my last batch of oat flour griddle cakes is finishing up. These definitely come out better the smaller that you make them. And so I'm just gonna take these off the heat. I know they'll be okay and stay warm for a minute. Blueberry sauce. I added chia seeds and let them sit and cool down. So it's kind of thick. It'll set more the longer it sits. So you could let it sit more if you wanted. You could mash up the blueberries a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and use my immersion blender to mash these up. Another thing that we do sometimes with this recipe, I'm using my immersion blender to prop things up, is that we have often spread a nice layer of peanut butter on our pancakes before putting it on. Again, this is even good as like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with some homemade bread. All right, I'll leave you for a minute. Hey, back with my stack of 3 oat flour griddle cakes. My blueberry sauce is all nice and blended up, so I'm just gonna pour that over. You can see kind of the consistency. What a great alternative though to just a maple syrup over top. For those of you looking for something fruit-based, you can control the sweetness and the tartness in them. Okay, bon appetit. I'm gonna go enjoy this for my lunch today. Have a great day.